These are the people who are successful. Now, if you look at this ayah, it is a very simple ayah. In the Quran, there are a total of 8,000 words, 8,000 and a few hundred words. And out of those words, I've lost count actually. Was it 8,000 or was it more or was it less? Around a few thousand. In any case, if we go with the word with 8,000 for now, out of those, there are many words which are repeated often. So there are some often repeated words of the Quran. If you look at this one simple ayah, there is at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 words in this one ayah which have been repeated in the Quran not dozens of times, hundreds of times. So if you understand the meaning of each and every word of this ayah, you probably have understood about 1,000 words of the Quran. So if there are, let's say, I'm thinking it is 16,000 or 8,000 or 17,000, I will come up with the right answer maybe in the next class. I did a whole lecture and now I've forgotten. So this is, I apologize for this, but this is Allah. You sometimes forget things, you sometimes remember things. This is how you are. So, but in any case, if you understand this one ayah, the translation of this one ayah, then you know about 1,000 words of the Quran. So this is, in that respect, this is a very important ayah of the Quran, right? Now, what are those 9 words that I'm mentioning, which are there, how many times? Hundreds of times. Okay, one is, wala is 2 words. Wa means and la means no, right? No, and la comes for negative. So there are 2. These are present in the Quran hundreds of times. Kallazi, allazi is in the Quran again hundreds of times, right? And allazi means that which, right? Min is in the Quran again hundreds of times, and min means what? Min means from. And then ba'ad, right? After ma. What is the meaning of the word ma? Shahir. अच्छा, जिसने जवाब नहीं देना होता ना, वो यूं बैठा होता है सर नीचे करे जी, शाहिर को पकड़ के लिया गया जी. Shahir, what is the translation of the word ma? जी, ma means again that which, right? Allazi and ma have similar meanings, but ma is generally used for non-living things, and allazi is usually used for living things. So that which person, if you talk about a person, you'll use alladhi, and when you will use, when you'll talk about something, a thing, that thing, then you will use ma, right? So again, ma is used in the Quran hundreds of times. Ja'ahum. Ja might not be there hundreds of times. It might be there a few dozen times. But the word hum, they, that is in the Quran how many times? Again, hundreds of times. And then lahum. Lahum is again for them, right? Is there hundreds of times. Ulaika, they, is again present in the Quran, so hundreds of times. So you have at least 9 words. There could be actually one more word, I think. But at least 9 words in this one ayah are mentioned in the Quran hundreds of times. So if we do the translation, when we do the translation at the beginning of the class, if we do it word by word, that is why I want that if you don't have a workbook, you take a workbook, because you have a workbook. सबको ज़रा दे देना, जिसके पास, हाथ उठाएं जी किसके पास नहीं है, ताकि वर्कबुक सबके पास आ. इनको भी दें और शहजाद साहब को भी दें. शहजाद नाम है, ये आपकी है, ठीक है, आपको मिल गई. और किसके पास नहीं है? If you write each and every word underneath the Arabic word, एक आयत कभी लिख लेंगे ना, तो आप समझ लें कि आपको सैकड़ों अल्फाज कुरान के याद हो गए, समझ में आ गए। इसलिए जो हमारा गोल है कि हम we should be able to understand the meaning of the Quran by the end of our academic year. To inch closer to that goal, you will have to write down the translation every time I do the translation. So now all of you have workbooks, so there's no reason why you should not write down the translation. So is there anyone who doesn't have a workbook in this class? Right? No, there's nobody. So now we have no reason. Next class, everybody will be ready to do the translation, inshallah. So translation is important. We are coming closer and closer to our goal of understanding Arabic to that extent that we understand the Quran at least. This is our goal of this class, and it's not a very difficult goal. If everybody comes to class regularly, that is the first thing. The second thing is that, you do the translation every time you come. Whatever translation I do, should write down, inshallah, underneath the words. So you should be able to understand the translation of each and every word. And then I have said this before, inshallah, before as well. If you don't, while doing my translation, if you want to stop me, that what is the meaning of this word, I will stop, so that the translation is clear. So in this class, my purpose is that the translation of each and every word that you have there, because we just do one ayah. And one ayah is, 15, 16 words. So 15, 16 words, you should understand the meaning of each and every one of those words, inshallah. ठीक है ना? So is it clear to everyone? The small speech that I gave right now? Okay. Now we move on to this new class. Subhanallah. You see, we have a beautiful. देख रहे हैं? क्या बात है? मैंने भी नहीं देखा था ये पहले. Okay. Alhamdulillah wa kafa. Alhamdulillah wa kafa. Wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa. Amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wa la takunu كالذين تفرقوا واختلفوا من بعد ما جاءهم البينات سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Before we move on to the translation of this class, I just want to say one thing, that the ayah that we mentioned, which has about 9 words, is the ayah that we will do today. I thought this is the ayah we had done previously. But if you look at the ayah that we had done last week, there's not only 9 words, there's more than 9 words in that ayah, which are present in the Quran hundreds of times, each one of those words. So again, in the last ayah, I don't want to go into that because we are now into our new sabaq. So we'll go with our new sabaq, but every time we start our class, you should be ready with the translation of the previous class, inshallah. Okay. وَلَا تَكُونُوا, and don't be كَالَّذِينَ تَفَرَّقُوا, like those who fell into this, who became divided. وَاخْتَلَفُوا, and fell into disputes مِن بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَهُمُ الْبَيِّنَاتِ, after the clear signs had come to them. وَأُولَٰئِكَ, and those are the ones لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ, for them is a grave punishment. So this is the translation of the ayah. Now, as you all know, then in the last class we were talking about that we should not be divided. Allah has asked us not to be divided, and we should all be one. And then also Allah has commanded that from among you there should be a group of people who should concentrate on just inviting others to the good and forbidding the bad. Now in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes back again to this ayah, that don't be like those who fell into disputes and divisions after clear signs were given to them. Right? And the reality is that if Allah has given clear signs to us, and if these clear signs are very clear, and you have actually achieved this level of Iman, then after that level of Iman, to fall into disputes, to fall into division, and then to go back on your Iman or to go back from Islam is like the biggest of sin. So one sin is to not accept Islam. And the bigger sin is that you've seen the clear signs, and then again you fall into disputes, and you fall into divisions, and you go back. So today we will focus on some of the signs of the Quran. These clear signs that Allah talk about, that there are signs also in the Quran, and we will talk about these signs. And these signs today that we will talk about, there's many signs. But today the focus of these signs are scientific things in the Quran. So now we've mentioned about 5 or 6 things. And these are 4 here, and I think 2 are in the next slide. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. So we are talking about 6, inshallah, if time permitting, we'll talk about all these 6 things. So there are 6 signs in the Quran. 6 of those things that Allah mentions 1400 years ago, that we didn't even know till 50 years ago, that science didn't even know till 40, 30 years ago, right? And from among those things is that wherever there is life, there is water, right? Or you put it another way around, wherever there is water, there is life. So now, all these missions, space missions that go to moon, and they're planning to go to Mars, what they do there is, they're trying to find water. Many scholars, many PhDs, people who have done PhDs in astronomy, and people who are, very learned, for many years, they were debating as to what to find when you go on moon, let's say, or when you go in space. Everybody was looking for traces of life, if there is life forms available in any other part of the universe. And obviously the closest to us is the moon or the Mars. So there's, these are the places where, all these space programs, they plan to go. Now, after many debates and many people doing PhD in these things, now it is a scientific fact that wherever you will go to find life, whether it is moon or whether it is, Mars, you will try to find water. If there is water available, then that means there is life. So then when they could not find water, they said, okay, fine, we'll try to look for ice, because ice is also another form of water. So that's what they look at. So they were looking at, just a few days ago, there were missions on the moon, and they were mentioning that they might have found some ice traces on some poles of the moon. So this was a very big news. Why was this a big news? Because if there is water available, all scientists are agreed that there is some sort of life also there. So this was an agreement that they made after many years of discussions, after science came to this level. And this is an agreement that everybody came up to about 40 years ago, roughly. And in the Quran, Allah Ta'ala says, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. Now the exact translation of these words, that we have given life to everything through water. Through water we have given life to everything. Now this scientific reality is a very huge claim 1400 years ago. So this is a very clear sign of Allah. So this is the first sign. We go on to the next one. And I think this next one I've mentioned maybe at some point. Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, وَكُلٌّ فِي فَلَكٍ يَسْبَحُونَ. And this is an ayah of Surah Yasin. Allah Ta'ala says, وَالشَّمْسُ وَالْقَمَرُ. That the sun, the star, everything that is on in the skies, everything in the universe. Kullun fi falaki yasbahun. Everything is swimming. Yasbahun means swimming in an orbit. Now the use of the word orbit, falak means orbit. Everything is going round in an orbit is again a very, very big scientific claim. Maybe not for this century, 1400 years ago, to say that, everything in the universe is moving in an orbit was a very big scientific claim. Why? Because science itself, up till the 16th century, was of the view that this earth is the center of the universe, and the earth is stagnant, it does not move, and all the stars and the planets, they move around the earth. Then Galileo was the first scientist to say that no, it is not the earth which is the center of the earth. It is not the earth which is the center of the universe. It is the sun which is the center of the... Again, it was wrong actually. But he said that no, it is the earth which goes across the sun. So he was right in this thing, that the earth moves around the sun. But him saying that the sun is stagnant and not the earth, he was wrong in that. And then came this 20th century, where we made spaceships, the humans made spaceships, and they went into space, and then they created these huge telescopes. And there was this big telescope by the name of Hubble telescope, which was able to see actually what was going on. And they came up to this conclusion that neither the earth nor the sun, everything which is there in the universe, everything is moving in an orbit. And this claim, everything moves in an orbit, was made how many years ago? Again, 1500 years ago. So this is a huge scientific claim. Then, the third thing, and this is again a very, very big scientific claim, and this is about the creation, what happens in the womb of the mother. And I wish I had the whole ayah written out here, but the translation, this is the last part of the ayah. And Allah Ta'ala talks about what happens in the womb when the woman is pregnant and when the child is being born. So what happens is that for many, many years, the scientists were of the view that this is how it happens. That the way the child is born inside the womb is that his whole body is created step by step. So his head is first created, then the skin on the head and the hair is created, and so on and so forth. His eyes, then his tongue, and this is how he's created, and then it is finished all the way up to the toe. So this was the view of the scientist. Then in the 20th century, you came up with this ultrasound technology, right? And all these technologies in which you can actually see what was happening inside of the womb of the mother. And they came to this conclusion that what is actually happening is that first there's just a clot, right? When the child is born. And that clot actually changes into flesh. And that changes into flesh and bones. And then you have the skeleton. And then skeleton is being dressed with the skin, right? First with the flesh. The skeleton is, the flesh is put onto it, and then the skin is put onto it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this exact same procedure in the Quran. That we made you from a piece of cloth, we changed it into flesh, then we turned it into bones, and then we kasawna means we clothed it. The way you wear clothes, we clothed it, the izam, the bones, with lahma, with what? With meat. Lahm is meat, right? So it's very clear. So this is again a huge scientific claim. I mean, to make this claim even 100 years ago was like the hugest thing in the world. And 1400 years ago, again, this is a huge sign of Allah. So there's scientific claims in the Quran that are huge. Nobody can even imagine that you make these scientific claims in the Quran. So again, the first one is about water. The second one is about everything going around in an orbit. And the third thing is what happens in the womb of the mother. And the fourth thing is, I overheard this class, the creation of the world, right? And the Big Bang Theory says that everything was created in a bang and everything is expanding, right? So we are still in the process of expanding. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this ayah again. وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا. We created the skies with our own hands. بِأَيْدٍ وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ. We created the skies with our own hands. وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ. And we are expanding it. So لَمُوسِعُونَ, there's no other translation of this word except that Allah is expanding it. So again, this universe is expanding. This scientific claim is a huge scientific claim. And Allah is making the scientific claim 1400 years ago. So there are clear signs in the Quran. And the last two things, if you see these two last things, the first one is in Arabic and the second one is, it looks like Indonesian, right? It's not Indonesian. It's in English because our friend could not find the Arabic for this because this is part of the Hadith. It is not Quran. And he was looking in the Quran. So in any case, this thing was وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الرَّجْعِ. What is the translation of this word? Or this ayah? وَالسَّمَاءِ. And I swear by the sky. Right? وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الرَّجْعِ. That sky which deflects, right? Which deflects. Zat al-Raj, which sends it back. Raj means sending back, right? Or going back. So the Allah Ta'ala is swearing upon the sky that actually, that makes things go back. Now, what does the sky do? Or what is the sky which is making things go back? The scientists say that this earth that we have, there are many, many spheres which are around us that the naked eye cannot see, but they are there, right? So the ozone layer is one of them. Then there's other layers. So there's a stratosphere. Then there's an ionosphere. There's about 9-10 layers which are covering the earth. And what are these layers doing? All of these scientists are agreed that there's 9 or 10 layers. Any science book you open up, you'll find these things. And what are the scientists saying? That what happens? What are these layers of, these spheres doing around the earth? Every day, there are thousands and thousands of metric ton of particles that are thrown on the earth. And these are the spheres which deflected back. And Allah Ta'ala says, وَالسَّمَاءِ, I swear by the sky that deflects, that sends it back. So again, this is a huge scientific claim. Because 100 years ago, it was very difficult to have an answer to the translation of this. Because there was no understanding of, the sky which sends things back. Now you have an understanding of the sky which sends things back. So these are the 5 things. There are many, many other things. I've just mentioned 5 because our class ends at 8. So that's why it's 5, right? So now I have last one thing that I have to mention here. And this is Arabic actually. Sumu li royatihi. The Prophet ﷺ, this is actually a part of Hadith. The Prophet ﷺ has said that you should start fasting when you see the moon, right? So you should actually do a manual viewing of the moon before you start the month of Ramadan. So the Prophet ﷺ says, Sumu li royatihi wa yaftiru li royatihi. And you should end the month of Ramadan also by seeing the moon. Now the Prophet ﷺ has actually ordered us, it is a hukum, that we should actually view the moon. And in these times, people say that there's no need to view the moon anymore because we know the trajectory of the moon. Each and every second of the trajectory of the moon is there on the internet, right? Everybody can view it. where the moon is now, where it will be in the evening, where it will be tomorrow, where it will be 1 year from now. So when we were in the US, I'm talking about 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. So there was a masjid there, and we were, volunteers in the masjid. And people would, on the night of Ramadan or the night of Eid, people would be frantically calling the masjid, Kal chand hoga ya kal chand nahi, Eid hai ya nahi hai. And we will answer that, we are waiting for the results of the ulama, And there will be, some of the people will be very shocked. Like, what? I thought you guys are very learned, and you guys are literate, and you are still waiting for, the viewing of the ulama. And we say, yes, we are waiting for the, for the decision that the ulama would come up with if they have seen the chant, if they've seen the moon, or if they've not seen the moon. So then, finally we decided that let's, find out if it is really necessary anymore to view the moon or not. So we called NASA. And, this is how we talked, my friend of mine. So he said, well, I have this one question. All of us know that we've landed on moon. So obviously we know where the moon is, right? And they said, yes, we know where the moon is. So we said, that was the last day of Ramadan. We said, okay, so tonight at 7 p.m., do you know if we will be able to view the moon with our naked eyes? And the woman on the phone, she replied, oh, you know what? This answer can be given in a better way by the Naval Observatory. So if you call them, they will answer this in a much better way than we will answer it. So we all called, the Naval Observatory. And we called the Naval Observatory and we asked them the same question. Times have progressed. We have landed on the moon. So can you tell us that if we will be able to view the moon at 7 p.m. tonight? Because 7 p.m. was Maghrib time that day. So will we be able to view the moon at 7 p.m. tonight? Can you give us 100% answer? And she said, well, sir, do you know any of science? And, the person on the phone, our friend, he said, yes, I do understand. I've been to college, this and that. He said, okay, fine, let me explain to you. So the way we calculate the trajectory of the moon is through variables. And when we calculate, those variables are about 2,000 in numbers. So there are 2,000 variables, there are 2,000 values that we have to enter into an equation to find out the trajectory of the moon. So among those are temperature, among those are the speed of the moon, among those are the weather of the moon, all these things. There are 2,000 variables, and when we put all these variables in, that's when we come up with the exact position of the moon. And yes, we do have the exact position of every second of the moon. So do you understand, sir? We said, yes, we understand. So then again our question was, so will we be able to view at 7 p.m. tonight? Can you tell us now? Then she said, well, among those variables is a variable called moonquake, right? And moonquake is just like you have earthquakes, you have moonquakes, right? So it could happen. And there are many other variables which are similar to this variable. It can actually happen that if you are able to, if I tell you that tonight, yes, you will be able to view it, but it can actually happen because the moon travels on a path. And it can happen that there could be an earthquake at that very moment, and the moon can wobble on its track, and you might not be able to view it. So there's nobody who can tell you right now for 100% that you will be able to view the moon with the naked eye. I can give you a 95, 98% correct answer, but nobody can tell you 100% if you will be able to view. If you want to know for a fact, for 100%, if you will be able to view, you will actually have to view the moon. This is what she said, and this is what the Prophet ﷺ said, right? You view the moon, and then you start the month of fasting, and you view the moon, and then you end the month of fasting. So this is again a sign of Allah, that the Prophet ﷺ said that viewing the moon is important. So this is the final question that we asked. Can any scientist in the world can claim that I know exactly 100% that I will be able to view the moon at this very specific time? So there's no scientist who's going to claim this. You will actually have to view the moon. So this is, the report of the Naval Observatory. So there are signs in the Quran, there are signs in the Hadith. And the ayah that we are reading today, Allah Ta'ala says that if signs have come to you and then you go back and then you fight among yourselves and then you become divided, then you have done a bigger sin. So these were some of the ayahs that we went over in this class. I will end the class here today and we'll do the translation one more time. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولا تكونوا كالذين تفرقوا. And don't be like those who became divided. وَاخْتَلَفُوا. And who fell into disputes. After that, مَا جَاءَهُمُ الْبَيِّنَاتِ. After clear signs had come to them. وَأُولَٰئِكَ. And these are the ones, لَهُمْ, for them, is عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ, a very grave punishment. So we will stop here. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.